People would like to think that the TV that they watch, the video games, the music that they listen to doesn't impact their mental state or doesn't condition them. But they're wrong. And they're wrong for a few reasons. The main one is that no matter what you do, no matter what influences you have, it's going to change who you are. If you grow up watching certain movies or listening to certain music, it's going to sway you. Now, obviously, the environment will dictate what you choose, and what you choose will help sway your environment. So it's a two-way process here. But let me give you a personal example. I grew up in a sort of traumatic, neglectful childhood. My father just wasn't there physically. He was there, but he just wasn't there, if that makes sense. So I spent a lot of time watching TV, a lot of time, hours and hours and hours and hours every day. And what that did for me was it gave me a false view of the realities of different countries, or the realities of home life, or the realities of life in general. I would watch stuff on TV and I would realize, or I would think, okay, well, that's what a family looks like. That's what that country looks like. That's how a popular person or a smart person or a whatever sort of person should act. If someone treats me this way, this should be my response. And because I wasn't getting it from my father and I wasn't being shown socially in reality, I was sort of raised by TV in that sense. And it's taken me a long time to sort of step back and realize my internal programming. For me to realize and go, okay, hang on, that's not real. That's what you learned about on TV, through fictional shows, through cartoons, through years and years and years of experience just watching TV. That's not real. So what I've taken to doing is stepping back and going, okay, well, what is the reality of the situation? What does someone that's successful actually look like? What does someone that is smart or brave or kind, what are they actually doing? What does that actually look like in real life, not what a TV producer projects? Because you've got to remember, an artist, a producer, someone that creates content is putting their vision out. So if I make a book that has a love scene in it, that's going to be love based on what I conceive love to be, right? Same thing with violence, same thing with shame, same thing with everything. It's the artist's interpretation. So if you're not shown or you're not taught a real world version of this and you're growing up on media, you're growing up on other people's versions, you're being shown this mismatch, this collective view that isn't quite real. Because if you think about it, fictional stories are things taken to the extreme, right? They're not real, and that's obvious, but it's not just that it's not real story, it's that things are taken to extremes, things are looked upon in different ways, things are dramatized. So when you have a major problem in a fictional story, it's so much more major than a problem that you would have in real life. And what that led me to do, at least, was going, well, okay, well, my problems are like this, but they're not the real big problems that I was seeing on TV, right? Obviously, all of this sounds a little bit ridiculous, deconstructing it and sharing it, because I can see now from my adult detached perspective that what I saw growing up was a fiction. But growing up, I didn't even realize that I was getting conditioned down this path. And conditioning is real. I must stress that enough. If your parents act a certain way, if they're a certain religion, if they have certain beliefs, you will probably, at least initially, have those beliefs, those religions, that sort of stuff. There's every chance that you have the same religion and the same morals in general, the same political views, the same habits, the same hobbies as your parents do. Now, you will start to change and deviate, but you're changing and deviating from that point, from the point of where your parents started you off from. You know, you might, well, I'm not as Christian, or, well, I won't take as many drugs, or I'm not going to beat my child, but I will yell at them, right? Like you're varying from the starting point. The reason I'm highlighting all this is because I want to suggest that we need to be aware of the conditioning that we're putting into our mind. We need to be aware that when we listen to certain music, we're putting those thoughts into our mind. Now, I was a very angry teen, but I didn't realize just how angry I was, once again, until I sort of detached and stepped back. One activity that I suggest you try that I have learned a lot about myself from was to go back and listen to the music that you listened to as a teen, as like a young teen, old teen, just years ago. Listen to the lyrics. Look at the actual lyrics written down and read the words out loud. Don't sing the song, but just read what those words are saying. Because I know when I looked back, I would be singing these words over and over and over again, and it was very, very negative, very depressed, very angsty. A lot of pain there, a lot of anger and rage against my parents, against society, against myself. And that's expressed in the lyrics that I connected to. At the time, that was just the music that I listened to and the music that my friends listened to. But looking back, it's very apparent that I connected to that on a deep and personal level. And listening to that music was a way of sort of feeling something, but it was also simultaneously programming me to feel that more. Does that make sense? So it's like, now when I listen to it, when I listen to that music, it puts me back in that mind frame and I feel it, and I feel that mind frame compared to where I am now, and I revolt against it. I don't like it because it's sort of putting me back into that zone. Same thing if I watch those past TV shows, if I read the past fiction, if I put myself in the stimulus coming in from the past, it makes me feel like I'm in the past because I've been conditioned by that stuff to feel that way. So it's just a little bit of a suggestion to be aware that you can and are being conditioned, and that you have in the past. And you can step back and detach and start thinking about it and go, okay, what do I actually believe? What does my real world experience suggest? And where do I want to act with that knowledge rather than running on the autopilot that you usually do? This has been a bit of knowledge. I'm going to release a video every day. So if you like what I'm doing here, please like, share, and subscribe. Catch ya.